He threw a leg across that iron horse and pulled the throttle down. A million things rushing through his mind like that rumbling sound. Living life in his own eyes, direction isn't clear. So searching all these years.
Overwhelmed by grace and it feels so surreal. I don't know, but here's the deal. I've been touched by love and I know that I've been healed. So I will lift my hands and I will raise my voice. I'm gonna sing and dance and make a joyful noise. You took my shackles off and now I'm changed forever. Jesus, you are everything to me. You are all of creation worships you. You are my God. Miracles happening.
Welcome everybody to Answers from Mars Hill. This is Pastor Ski from the Rushing Wind Biker Church out in Holbrook, New York. And I'm excited today. This is actually the first guest I've had on my shows. And somebody I met about 15 years ago.
That's right.
At a youth rally, actually. And accomplished artist, rapper, hip-hop too.
Yeah.
So I don't know the difference, so we're going to have to work on that.
Yeah, we're going to have a good show.
You know, I know rock and roll is pretty much what I know.
There you go.
And Mr. Richie Righteous.
Yes, sir.
Pastor of Church City in Jamaica,
Jamaica,
New York.
Queens,
I want to welcome you to our show.
Well, thank you.
It was pretty interesting how we met years ago.
Yeah.
And the one thing I was thinking about, neither one of us was a pastor.
Right. Absolutely.
And you were in your rap career. I don't know how popular at that time. I don't know the timing of when you grew to popularity.
Yeah.
And I just started getting in motorcycle ministry.
Right.
Totally different things. We went off on our separate ways, and here we are, two pastors.
Well, I think you ought to. Do you remember the way that happened?
No.
So I remember it vividly because it's the first time and only time I've ever done anything like that in a concert. Okay. Can I share with your audience?
Absolutely, man.
So here I was. I'm a Christian rapper, and they invited me out to do this event, and so the guy who put together the show, I don't even remember his name. Cool dude though. He said, "Hey man, we just can't have a regular event. We've got to have a big opening." So I said, "What you got in mind?" Because in my mind, I got my team there. We gonna get on and do what we do. He said, "Listen, I got a biker guy here. Would you be willing to ride in
on a motorcycle. I said, what you mean ride in? Because I'm not a biker at all. He said, yeah, just you'll sit on the back of the bike, hold on, stand up, and he's just going to ride it. Now, for the audience, you got to understand this is a church setting. So they get ready to introduce, and they say, here comes Richie Righteous, and there I was, nervous as ever, holding on to your shoulders on the back of the bike, and we rode all the way up to the stage. I jumped on the stage, and we started, and that was the beginning of how I met you.
Wow.
Yeah, that was, I was like, ooh, what in the world that
Yeah,
was.
I've been through some pretty crazy things.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, but we sat and we had lunch the other day, and
yeah.
it's interesting how the church has expanded in all the diversity, and I think things like this, because I don't know what's more diverse than rap and
Right,
bikers,
right,
because that just don't go. It's
right.
like oil and water.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But the spirit that God has brought within us
Right.
has really. And I put this online this morning. I feel like I've known you like my whole life.
Right, right.
And it's amazing, people watching the show when you meet another person in ministry and loves Jesus. After a couple minutes, it's like,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, I spoke about you to my church on Friday night, and we were talking about something, and I said to the church, there is a lot of division in our world today. And I told him, I was telling the church, I sat with a friend that I've met 15 years ago. He's a biker, and we're not from the same world. And I said, but after sitting for about 5 minutes, we realized we had more in common than what, we would think we normally have. And the one bonding fact is that we love Jesus.
amen, man.
That we were
That's
both
cool.
headed in a direction, and the Lord found us. He changed us. Our stories are different, but similar.
Yeah.
In that grace found us, and we let go of everything else.
Yeah.
And we just want to be used by God. So we sat there and we had a great conversation, And I think that's the beauty. Only the Lord Jesus can bring people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
And all this division and tension that we see, He's the cure for it, man.
There's nothing like it, man.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it.
That's right.
We look
That's
at the world we're in today and just how fractured.
Right.
And there is nothing.
Right.
They've tried everything.
Right.
And all this self-help stuff.
Right.
We're the problem. We ain't the solution.
Exactly.
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 And but I wanted, we were talking. I thought about this the other day. When I met you the first time, it was a youth outreach, and we were kind of affiliated with Assemblies of God, and it was an Assemblies of God event. And I had my son and my future daughter-in-law were there, and I haven't talked to them about it, but I would think that you had a big influence on my son because he's not a rap person, but I'm a hardcore metal guy. And so several years ago, him and a bunch of his friends from church started what was a very popular metal group, hardcore. That grunting, screaming, yelling stuff.
Right.
But I think seeing what you were doing, and I think there was also some other minor acts that were there, that he saw something that, it's like me. I never thought I would be in ministry till I bought a motorcycle.
Right.
And God said, this is the way it is.
Right.
But share a little bit about just, your coming to faith and, what brought you to Jesus in the first place.
Yeah, well, I gave you the long version when we sat and talked the other day.
Right.
But to bring it, shorten it because it is a short, we got a time slot. Grew up in Queens, New York, originally born South America, Guyana. Father was a preacher, migrated to Queens, toughest part of Queens, Jamaica, Queens. Just felt the need to plant a church there, drug dealers on the corner. In the time when New York City was, now New York has calmed down, I would say. But in the time when obviously crime rate was high, there we were moved in Jamaica, Queens. Father started the church, but I fastly got influenced by New York culture, hip hop, got into the everything the streets could offer. And, for me, a couple of things happened. One, friends got arrested at a young age. I thought that could never happen to me. I thought I was, smarter than the average bear, so to speak. Eventually got arrested at a young age. I think first time I got arrested was 15 years old, sitting up in a prison cell, watching my mother cry, wondering what path I'm going to go on. Father was a man of God, spoke into my life and told me, he said, man, there's a call on your life, and the enemy would love nothing more than to ruin you. Next day after he told me that, two guys in a train station, one of them put a blade. First time really having an encounter with God. As I was leaving the train station, something said, those guys are going to follow you. In my head, I brushed it off. It's just a thought. As I went about 4 or 5 blocks down, those same two guys came. One of them grabbed me behind. He's like, yo, shorty, run your stuff. They were trying to rob me. And the only thing I had was a pocket Gideon's Bible. He saw it. He jumped back, and the guy who was robbing me started hiding his face. And I was like, what in the world is this? And so they left me alone, and I just began to ponder in a young age, like, religion and growing up in church and all that stuff, but still finding myself in caught up in New York culture. Hip hop was a big part. Watched a lot of friends die. Friends got arrested. Things happening, transpiring. And then ultimately what really rocked me was at age 18, 19, the father that I had, he died of a heart attack. And when he died of a heart attack, I really begun to doubt if God ever existed. Went on to make a lot of decisions that were just coming from a hurt, bitter place. And my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, I met her in college. She became pregnant. And when she told me she had this baby, I got to levels of where I was telling her, listen, get rid of the baby, whatever. And my wife looked at me and she said, you know what? I wasn't raised under the principles of God like you, but I'm going to do what I have to raise my child. And when she said that, I realized I had really sunk to a bad place. Now, there's a lot more to this story, so I'm giving you the condensed
Well, I like
version.
to, we have to take a
Right.
break in a minute.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we got time.
Right.
So continue this story when we come back. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes
There you go.
after a few commercial words from our sponsors.
Hey everybody, this is Motorcycle Mike, the personal injury lawyer. I've been riding motorcycles my entire adult life. During the course of my 30-year career as a lawyer, I've also represented countless injured motorcyclists. If you're one of them, I can be of assistance to you. Go to my website, please, motorcyclemikeesq.com. I'll always be there for you. I'm on your side when you ride.
Welcome back to Answers from Mars Hill. This is Pastor Ski speaking with my friend Richie Righteous, Pastor Richie Righteous.
Yes.
And he was in the middle of your story of how you came to Christ.
So where I left off on the story was my wife she looked at me and said, I wasn't raised in church like you. I don't know everything about God like you, but I know I'm going to take care of my baby and you could go live your life elsewhere. I realized I had gotten to a place where I had sunken real low. In morality, I was hurt, I was bitter. And there was a song on the radio that came on. It's from a brother of mine, a friend of mine, a brother named Fred Hammond. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't know Fred Hammond?
Fred is the man. And the song was one of his songs that every step of a righteous man is ordered by God. Now, I had already started rapping for the Lord and all of that at this point. But there's a difference between religion and having a relationship with God.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so even though I grew up in the church and I had influences in the church, being in a church does not make you a Christian no more than, we say as preachers, no more than being in a garage would make you a car.
Right.
Right? That's an old analogy people give. So I remember sitting in my car and just crying and saying, Lord, you know, my father's dead. I got all this stuff going on. I am not on a trajectory to becoming anything in life. And I just felt the Lord dealing with me saying, man, listen, righteous just simply means to do right. But on your best day, your righteousness still falls short in my sight. And it was like a moment in the car where I begun to realize what the gospel really means. It means that if I surrender and stop trying on my own strength and let what he did on the cross take effect, my life will be transformed. Amen. I put my faith in the Lord Jesus. My son is 21 years old today, so that's 21 years ago. Yeah. And he's the drummer in my church. He's a producer. He's got his own music. We just did a song together. Yeah. And to think there was a time when I was going to abort him. Right? Wow. God, he's one of my greatest blessings today. There's so much more to this story. That woman is my wife today. And those of you who've ever tuned into our church broadcast, she sits right beside me. Oh, yeah. And she's part of my testimony. But the Lord kept me from a lot of things. And it's only his grace. There's a lot of people that are in prison. There's a lot of people that do. They don't avoid some of the things that God kind of allowed me to avoid. And I don't think it's because I'm better. I know it's because of God's grace. But I also know that people who are in those situations, his grace can find you there. Yeah. Oh, and that's the message we preach. And so, I went from that to ultimately, my father passed away, like I said. And when he passed away, all of this turned around in my life. And I found myself following the same legacy, the same traditions. And I ended up pastoring the same church that my father planted. That's pretty cool, man. Yeah, oh man, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. But I kind of knew it as a kid. I already felt it and was running from that calling. Ran from it a lot, But I already knew the Lord was eventually, I just didn't see the way he was going to do it. But so before I even started doing that, though, I started doing music heavy, touring toward the United States, toward Europe a little bit, throughout the Caribbean, Canada, and we were just on the road doing stuff. And that's how I met you, ran into you on one of those concerts. Yeah. And ran into a lot of wonderful people, but was doing the music. And then what ended up happening in the church was, I remember I was in Ottawa, Canada at something called Blues Fest. And Blues Fest was a huge event. They had Drake on the main stage. They had Kanye West and all these guys. And then they had the Christian stage, and I was one of the main artists on the Christian stage. And it was right after that when I came back to the church, my mother, who was there, her husband had passed away. She was struggling to keep stuff together. She said, "Can you help me do a Bible study?" I said, "Sure, I'll do a Bible study. Not a big deal." So started taking some time off to show up on a Wednesday, do a Bible. And she's like, Can you help me preach on a Sunday morning?" I said, "Sure." Then I noticed the Sunday begun to be another Sunday. And I said, well, I'm starting to cancel stuff to be in Then before long, I looked around. I was the only one preaching there. And they were like, "Pastor Rich." And I said, whoa. So that was kind of my journey into that. And I recommend people going to, classes and theology schools and all of that. I'm not against that. But my route in learning a lot about God and studying these books was from being a rapper. Oftentimes people look at guys like you and me, and I know I'm rambling a lot. Stop me at any time. Oftentimes people look at guys and they don't think we know anything about the depth of God. Mm-hmm. But what I found was, being the type of guy I was, when I got into normal church circles, the mindset of you don't know anything pushed me to really study and know what it is I believe. Right. So I was studying so much Bible that when it came time to preach, I was well versed. Right. And I thank God for that, and I'm just in love with Jesus. So that's... Well, there's a lot more to the story, but
since you shifted a little towards your pastoral experience, I want to show the viewers a clip of this was a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah. This was preaching from a sermon called a Song in a Strange Land.
Yeah, and I just enjoy listening to you because you can see, you're an artist, and you preach like an artist, and someone who I almost don't want to say entertainer because it kind of sounds wrong when
Right.
you're preaching, but
Well, it's my gift. It's my gift.
yeah, and I'm not traditional, but I ain't like you.
Right.
So I want to show a clip of Richie, and I think his wife is on the set with him.
Yeah.
Of a recent message. So Bobby, if you can cue that up.
A strange land. I am not talking today about your geographical location. When I say a strange land, the Bible starts off with a story in which God, who is all knowing, asked the first man a question. He asked him, Adam, where are you? Now, the question in context makes sense, but it also does not make sense theologically. For the God who was asking the question knows everything. So, why would someone who knows the answer ask the question? You see, God doesn't need to know Adam's geographical location because he's all knowing. He knew exactly where Adam was. I want you to know today that God knows exactly where you are. So why would God ask Adam such a question? You already know where I am. Why are you asking? Could it be that the question, could it be that the question wasn't for God, but the question was for Adam? And the question wasn't about location. The question was about mental. Y'all ain't saying nothing to me in this place. Your mental location. Where are you? Where are you, Adam, in your mind? Because Adam's answer was interesting. He didn't say, "I am on the west wing of the garden, located between the river and the tiger."
Right.
Help me out, somebody. I don't know where in the garden. He didn't say, "I'm 50 degrees north." He said, "I am hiding because I am naked and whoa. That's not location. That's mine.
Yes.
I am naked and ashamed." And so the question God asked in the beginning was, where are you? I want to ask you today, and those of you watching, where are you? Are you in a strange land? A strange land.
So that was, I tell you, it's just great listening to you, man.
I enjoy it.
And, we talked about, my rings are falling off. You're sitting on a set rather than preaching from the pulpit. We'll talk to that in a little bit and how really this whole pandemic kind of morphed that thing. But you mentioned something before the clip about, you came into this with really no theological training and how you knew. And I also came into my call without any traditional theological training. Until I knew I was going to be a pastor, and then I, stepped into a program. But I think, we mentioned a little bit that we've had lives. And I find a lot of times, sometimes clergy have a hard time relating to people. And people actually hearing the words of clergy because they haven't lived life. And they might have all the training in the world. And I think that both of us kind of have some of that going on. And I think you've actually dove into studies more than me. Because you asked me about apologetics the other day, and I just want to know the gospel. And I want to learn to empower people. So I don't spend a lot more time anymore investigating with commentaries and learning that. I want to be able to expound on the gospel to people. And so, as you stepped into this pastoral, one thing I want to cover a little bit now, maybe in the next segment. Did your wife ever decided she wanted to be a pastor's wife? I mean, was that just thrown in her lap?
Listen, that was just thrown into the pot. And no, the short answer to that is obviously, she didn't know, I didn't know where God was leading. But we don't view it as, you see, put it this way, if you're a pastor and you're watching, you might struggle a lot with the role of, because the role of pastoring can bring a lot of Stress,
No, really?
you know.
Yeah, if people only knew.
I tell people all the time, this is not something like you would recommend to your children, go be a, like, you have no idea what you're asking for. I really believe that there's a grace that God gives to this position.
Amen.
And the way I, listen, my family's always first in my life. Well, God is always first, family second, that order. My church is aware of this.
Right.
Anybody I minister to is aware of this. And so we have decided to live. And what I mean by that is many pastors, their whole life can be, and I got to be careful when I say this, can be consumed with
Right.
just church. But life is not meant to live that way.
Right.
You have to have balance.
Can we continue that after the next break?
There we go.
Anyway.
There we go.
Anyway,
There we
I
go.
hate to do that,
Yeah.
but we got to take care of our sponsors.
There we go.
So anyway, we'll be back. We'll continue on that that vein when we come back on Answers from Mars Hill. Hi, everyone. Pastor Ski here, and I want to thank you for watching our program. I want to just tell you about two resources that I have for you, sources of encouragement. You know, I've lived a very challenging life, and God has allowed me to go through a lot of things, and I've written 2 books. The first one is called The Fear of Life. This is kind of my life story of a very hard childhood, very dark childhood, dark family life, and how God redeemed my life from it, how He showed me life when I thought that life wasn't available. And then I wrote this book called No Sting when I went through my battle with terminal cancer, and how God healed me, how He enlightened me, strengthened me, and made a big difference in my life. And both of these very encouraging resources, sources of inspiration. If you know people who are struggling, people who have hard lives, or people that are struggling with cancer, they would be probably a good resource. And if you would like to purchase one of these books, you can go to BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, and the Zulon Press bookstore. And I appreciate your support, and get these out and help a lot of people. God bless you all, and I'll see you down the road. Welcome back to Answers from Mars Hill. Pastor Ski again with my guest, Richie Righteous.
What's good? What's
Pastor
good,
Rich.
world?
And
A biker and a rapper.
There you go. That's heaven, man.
Of course.
Yeah,
There's going to be a
that's a cool
whole
thing.
lot of different people up
And
there.
a little different skin tone, a little different
Absolutely.
attitude, a
Absolutely.
little different accent.
Absolutely. Listen, that's how
Yeah.
God made it in the beginning. He wanted the difference.
Amen.
You
Amen.
know? So it's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
when
beautiful.
we stopped the last segment, you were talking a little bit.
Balance.
Yeah.
What I was saying as a pastor, you have to have balance for your family. Most pastors, if they're not careful, they can be preaching to people and going home to misery. And you don't want that. You want to have a happy family.
Yeah.
So don't forget to be a father, be a husband, do the things your wife like. Tell your church, I can't make it sometimes.
Where were you
can't-
10 years ago when I needed it?
I don't know.
No, my wife would have been thankful back then.
Oh yeah. So listen, in a heartbeat, and I am not the pastor I struggle with if there's another preacher to allow him to speak. I love when I have other guys that are gifted.
Yeah.
Because then, you know what that does? I could take a Wednesday off. I can go on a date.
Yeah.
I can hang out with my kids.
Yeah.
And you need that. You need that. Because if you forget to live, you can get burnt out. So hopefully that blessed somebody out there.
How old are your children now?
My son is 21, my daughter's 16, graduating high school. at 16. So I'm, kind of
There you
happy
go.
about that.
Yeah.
And then I got two little boys, 8 years and 5. 8 and
Wow.
5. Yeah, yeah. I do. So there's this big gap.
Wow.
But 4 and that's it.
Yeah, we had 3.
Okay.
That's why I'm bald. But yeah, so you still got young ones in the house.
Yeah, I still got young
Yeah,
ones in the
yeah.
house, and they keep me young. They keep me fresh.
So how did your wife? How was she transitioning into once you? Well, she was used to kind of being out there anyway as an
Right.
artist.
Right.
But as a pastor, you have people that there's a demand on your life emotionally and spiritually
Right.
that you're not going to have as an artist.
Right.
How did she take that all your emotional
Right.
availability now had to be there for other people going through things?
And you do have to be there for a lot of people. But I think, number one, my wife is understanding. She understands that. So I thank God for that. Some people are in a situation where, their wife might not totally understand that yet. But at the same time, I am wise enough to know how much of myself to give. Now, the thing about it is, being a pastor, for some reason, we have been told that we are counselors too. Now, depending on who you talk to, the congregation thinks that the pastor should be able to counsel all my issues. Now, counseling is a whole nother ball game.
Yes, it is.
That takes professional people to be able to get into intricacies. Then the other part of the problem is, once you begin to counsel your members, when you begin to preach, they start to think you're talking about them.
Well, yeah.
So I learned very early on, what you're good at, be excellent at it.
Right.
But what you're not good at, you're going to have to outsource.
Right.
So when people are in trouble or in a situation, let's say a marriage is falling apart, let's say a brother's going through something and they come to me, I would tell them, this is what the Bible says and I want the best for you. But let's find you the care biblically, and I always believe in getting them biblical care,
Right.
that a professional that just does this.
Right.
And let's see if that works for you. And I find that protects my integrity as a pastor. It gives me to be able to keep some of my mental sanity and not giving all of my emotions.
Right.
They get the best care. And I can preach freely because if the Lord gives me a word,
Yeah.
you didn't tell me anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I'm caring as a pastor without having to be everything
True.
to that
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
So it's just wisdom. And I learned that obviously from watching so many other pastors
Yeah.
as I grow up.
Well, yeah,
You know?
I didn't have a lot of that
Right,
around me.
right.
I do a certain amount of counseling, but I do have my assistant pastors are more of our counseling,
Right,
and I love preaching,
right.
and I feel very awkward when I'm not. And
Yeah, that's your area.
and that's my area, and I do
that's what you
counsel.
should do. Uh-huh.
But how do you navigate through that when new people come to the church, and they might have issues, they might need more care than others, and they came there because you're the pastor.
Right.
How do you not
Right.
get overwhelmed with that and keep it to where they're comfortable you saying this person can help you?
Right. So, that's a broad range of things. New people walk into the church, many people come in with many different issues. My giving of myself is to people who want to know the Lord. Now, there's people coming in with all sorts of people might come in with financial issues, marital issues. Those are big deals.
Right.
But I have systems set up to begin to deal with those. As a pastor, my first priority is those who want to know Jesus.
Right.
So I give of myself that discipleship, walking people through what it means to be a Christian, doing classes, teaching, spending time with them, and growing there. But the other issues, not that I am not involved, I'm involved as the pastor, but I have systems set up
Right.
to begin to help those.
That's cool. That's a
and
cool
you got to
thing.
do it that way.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
know your lane.
Yeah.
Else you're going to mess up the traffic, man.
Well, before I have something I want to transition to, but before that, I want to show the viewers another one of your your music clips.
Yeah, let's
'Cause,
do it.
I mean, I hate to say this, I dig the music,
Uh,
and so my biker people out there understand.
Listen, bikers on. I mean, hip hop is transcended at this point. It's creeped into a lot of places.
Not a lot of the bikers I know. So anyway,
Come on, bikers, we don't
here's,
get no love. What's up,
here's-
bikers?
here's another clip.
I'm going to be the one rapper that the bikers like.
Yeah, I hope so.
Shout out
Hope
to all the bikers out
We'll work
there.
on that, guys. Anyway, here's another clip from Richie Righteous.
Man, they don't get the picture, man. They don't see that there's a vision, man. They don't see that there's a bigger plan. Man, they don't really understand. Man, they don't get the picture, man. They don't see that there's a vision, man. They don't see that there's a bigger plan. I said, man, they don't really understand. Listen, I said, they don't get the picture, man. Listen, they don't see that there's a vision, man. Listen, they don't see that there's a bigger plan. Hey, I said, man, they don't really understand. Man, they don't get the picture, man. Hey, they don't see that there's a vision, man. Listen, they don't see that there's a bigger plan. From Queens, you know how I get down. I'm coming with that chain breaking sound. Why them haters hating on me? They want my career to drown. They want me to go, but like a donut, I'm still around. Man, they could keep on dissing. Rich is on that mission. All I do is add hooks to these lines, but you could call that fishing. Hackers wanna steal my flow, but I'd like to see them try. I wasn't manufactured by Sony, but I'm so NY. So shout out to DJ Why Not? Shout out to DJ Wado. Man, I be on them blocks, boy, and I ain't talking Legos. I've been holding it down. Believe me when I say so, I'ma keep holding it down. You can watch me like a Seiko. Hey, I said, man, they don't really understand. They don't listen. I said, man, they don't get the picture. They don't listen. They don't see that there's a vision. They don't see that there's a bigger plan. Listen, I said, man, they don't really understand. Hey, I said, man, they don't get the picture, man. Listen, they don't see that there's a vision, man. Hey, they don't see that there's a bigger plan. They act like they know, but I know that they don't. And I ain't scared to take risks, cause I know that they won't. Some are just too comfortable. They don't ever wanna speak up, cause you might lose a house or you might lose a friend if you told the truth about Jesus. While just across these waters, believers are
Well, a little more Richie Righteous there.
Yeah.
And for those who like, is that hip hop or is that rap?
It's just,
I don't even know.
So hip hop is like the banner of which the different forms of the genre comes in. So there's trap, there's what they call boom bap and all of this. It all falls under hip hop. So rapping is just the art form.
All right, so if I say hip hop, I'm okay.
You good.
Even if I'm talking about rap.
Yeah, you good. Just hip
All
hop.
right.
Same way. Like in your world, we would like a person who's not versed in music. They don't know there's death metal, heavy metal, rock,
Right.
soft rock, pop. To them, it's like it's rock and roll.
Okay. I can
But
live
to
with
you,
that.
you know, like there's
Yeah.
a difference between a Guns N' Roses and whatever else.
Right.
You know what I'm
No,
saying? You know there's a
absolutely.
difference.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of like
Yeah.
what it is.
So we were talking a little bit about your transition from being an artist to a pastor, and as I was talking, there's a lot of freedom
Right.
when you're out on the road. You can kind of do
Oh,
what you want, go where you want.
Oh yeah.
Again, a lot of danger,
Oh yes.
but now you have a stationary commitment every Sunday and whatever thing to
Right.
church. How did you transition into that? Taking away of all the freedom that you might have. We have about a minute, and then we'll continue that.
Well,
also.
I tell you what, I love the music, and I don't think I'll ever stop having some type of involvement in that. But I think your audience is probably gonna have to wait for me to tell about the music end and the transition when we come back. Because guess what? We've got to deal with our sponsors.
We got to take another break. So anyway, we'll be back in a minute or two with my I hope good friend at this point again.
Absolutely.
Doesn't take long when you got the
No,
Lord to just connect.
we're
Man.
brothers.
So we'll be back in a minute or two. Answer some Mars Hill with my friend Richie Righteous, Pastor Richie Righteous. So we'll be right back.
Yes, sir.
Hey everybody, this is Motorcycle Mike, the personal injury lawyer. In addition to representing injured motorcyclists for over 30 years now, during that same time, I've represented countless car crash victims and construction workers injured on construction sites. If you need my assistance, go to my website, motorcyclemikeesq.com. I will always be there for you.
Welcome back to Answer Some Mars Hill. I'm here with Richie Righteous, and we've been talking about, or he's been talking about, the transition from being the artist
Right, right.
to being a full-time pastor.
So I love being an artist and traveled some of listen, I loved being an artist. For many reasons, I love music. I love creating it. I love being in the studio. I love writing songs. I love what I do. And then obviously touring the music, meeting people whose lives have been changed by your music. It's a wonderful feeling. Being in front of an audience and having a room full of 500 people sing word for word your song, it's mind-blowing, right? So then obviously there's the ego you got to deal with. But I think the best part of being an artist as a Christian was I get to leave. So I get to hear your problem after the show. I get to meet you, but I don't have to live with you and see you next Sunday. I get to go home.
Right. Yeah.
Pastoring, I've got to see you every Sunday and all the time. And I just can't drop you a CD and say, let that work it out for you.
Right.
I've got to be there for you. And so that kind of plays into what we were talking about earlier, the emotional pull on you. That's the difference between the artists.
Yeah.
And that's why even as a musician, sometimes Christian musicians, if they're not careful, they can sometimes do more damage for a pastor than help. And I was aware of that early.
Yeah.
That sometimes an artist can come and say some reckless stuff, and be a little too quote unquote radical to the point where it's like now the pastor has to do a cleanup job.
Well, it's like an evangelist. Evangelist comes to your church, opens up all the wounds, and the pastor's got to heal them.
He's got to, right.
But it's necessary.
Right. A little different from what I'm saying. I'm saying that like sometimes an artist, if he doesn't have the sensitivity to a pastoral ministry, can sometimes, he's free to go. He's free. It's not that the opening in the wounds and what the evangelist does is good, but sometimes an artist can create, if they're not careful, they can create more rebels in your church if they have an attitude of they're anti-church. And we live in an era where a lot of artists sometimes are anti-church.
Yeah.
Christian artists are anti-church. And that's not always good, Now, I know the organized church got its issues,
Right.
but at the same time, when you leave these people as an artist, they need a community to grow in.
Absolutely.
And so even the people that are watching, if you want to know how to grow in the Lord, you need a community. You need to get around people. What you are around is what you will most likely become. So, but to get back on point, as an artist, that was the beauty. I get to leave. But as a pastor, I don't get that. I have to now avail myself. And like I said, it's a grace that God gives you to be able to be patient. Now, I love my church, and my church is, they've been good to me. I love them, and I believe they love me. If you're watching, I believe Church City loves me. And we got a beautiful thing going there,
Well, I think, listening to you, there's an authenticity and a realness. It's something in our type of church. It's the same thing. I mean, not that people that come with their suit and they're kind of traditional pastors aren't.
Right.
But I think because we're kind of ourselves and we wing it,
Yeah.
and our experience in church is a little less structured at times,
Right.
a little more freewheeling.
Right. Right.
I think it creates a space where people don't have to put on airs. They don't think you're putting on airs.
Right.
Although the suit, I don't know, with the jacket today, I think
I mean, this is, you know what I mean?
you got that, I got this.
There you go. Yeah.
But it's great. And I say this a lot of times. People come in our church. You got to smile.
Amen.
That can only come from Jesus. And I said that to people just I meet on the street, and 100% of the time, they're Christian and they're on fire Christians because there's a smile that's it's indistinguishable when it comes from Jesus. So Church City, Church City. I got my Church City shirt on.
Yes.
And
yes. That's been our theme. That shirt has the theme of what kept us in the pandemic.
Yeah.
In the midst of crisis, we are focused on who Christ is.
And just having you on the show really has only come into my mind the last 2 or 3 months. But I got this shirt about 6-7 months ago.
Wow.
And I got the other one I told you that I really like because it's got attitude. Everybody wants to be a Christian until it gets biblical. I got to get another one of those because that's just, that's almost bikerish. The attitude.
Right.
So Church City, tell us about, how it's doing, where you're going.
Yeah, well, we are a church right in Jamaica, Queens. And I think you probably by now from all this interview kind of see the heart of the leader behind it, the person that God has called to lead that. Me and my wife, we're there with our family, tons of other people that work with us, growing a church in Queens that I think the key word here is just trying to be authentic. When I got into preaching, at points I tried to change me, and the Lord dealt with me, said, you cannot be the best somebody else. You can only be the best you. Once I started being the best me, the Lord begun to really work and grow the church. And so there's people from all walks of life. And even though I'm a rapper, we don't attract just hip hop people. A biker would feel comfortable in our church because he can know he can walk in like that and he can be a biker. And we'll never judge him.
Well, we're going to crash your church then.
Oh, I would love it. I would love it.
I got to make a reservation though.
Yeah, well, hopefully they lift all of that and we could just go back to church.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, my church is ready to break that rule. We ready to storm the church. But they can come, they can be you. If there's a businessman, listen, we've got teachers, we've got rappers, we've got artists, we've got entrepreneurs, we've got people from every walk of life that comes to Church City and they feel comfortable. Well, that has a lot to do with the name. Most churches would be named City Church. Right. It would be like New York City Church or this City Church or New Life City Church or whatever. We on purpose have it as Church City. One day the Lord begun to deal with me and said, the name came from a very interesting place. But long story short, one day I was driving in the car and the name was ringing in my head from something previously that happened. And Church City, Church City, Church City. And I just felt in my heart, what if the church really impacted the city? Not the building, because the church is not a building. The church is the people. Yeah. What if people from all walks of life really begun to be the church? I mean, in a medical field, there are Christians there that are the church. Right? In Hollywood, in the music arena, in the biker arena, wherever they go, what if the church really was being the church? Then you'd have a church city.
Amen.
Right?
That's awesome.
So that's the concept. So that's why we attract people from all walks of life, all ethnicity, all cultures. We don't care where you're from. We unite on Jesus. Just be you, love Jesus, grow in the Lord, and win. Win
That's
souls.
like having the New Jerusalem on earth.
That's the idea.
Down from heaven.
That's the mindset.
And that's the city.
That's it. That's it.
cool, man.
That's it.
So what's the future hold for Church City?
We're trying to grow and bring the experience that we have experienced in Queens to different parts. New York is a big place, so we're trying to figure out how to campus out, to bring a campus to Long Island. That's our one of the goals we want to accomplish before the year is out, to have a Church City Long Island. So we'll have a Church City Queens, Church City Long Island, and we've got a huge following from Brooklyn too as well. So eventually Brooklyn. And this pandemic has forced us to be online a little bit more than we have planned to. And as a result, we've got people from Tampa, North Carolina, South Carolina. We've got people in the UK that waits up when we're on 11 o'clock in the morning and it's like 10 o'clock at night. Families that gather around the TV just to watch us.
Really?
We've got people from India, Africa. I'm saying that to say, I don't know, maybe the Lord will allow us to do Church City UK,
That'd be
Church
awesome.
City wherever.
That'd be
Because
awesome.
once we grow to a certain amount where we can't handle it, we want to branch out
Cool.
and plant churches elsewhere.
Well, I want to thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
We'll wrap this up. We got one more
Yeah.
musical clip to show.
Yeah.
And then I want you to give the address, some information about your church, how people can get involved.
Very simple.
Find you
Church
online.
City.
No, after the clip.
Okay, okay,
after
okay,
the clip.
okay.
So here's another clip from Richie Righteous.
You will find. Take off the notes from your mind. Take a chance with your hands in mine. All I need is one. All I need is one. Hey, to make sure you know just who I am. All I need is one. All I need is one. To make sure you know just who I am. Listen, I am that I am. 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 I am. I am. I am that I am. Hey, I am that I am. You say, I am that I am. You say, I am that I am. I am. I am. I am.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back. That was Richie Righteous again.
Yeah.
It's crazy. People look at you and they see that and they think pastor. And it's the same thing when I'm on my motorcycle, you know, and, you know, God is cool, man.
Absolutely.
cool.
Absolutely.
So before we wrap it up, I want you to give our viewers some information on your church.
Yeah,
When your
yeah.
services are, what you got going on, where your address
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
and your website, and maybe some people that watch us might want to come hang out with you guys.
Absolutely. I would love it. I would love it. Come visit us anytime. The easiest way to remember who we are is the website, churchcityusa.com. That's churchcityusa.com. We're located in Jamaica, Queens, 13935 88th Avenue in Jamaica, Queens, New York. Follow me on all social media at Richie Righteous, Instagram. That's RICHIE, the word righteous like the Bible. And like in the Bible, and that's on all social platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and even if you do TikTok, I'm on there too as well. I don't know, I don't know when they're going to end all this social journey, but
I don't know.
we're on there.
I don't
Find
know.
us.
Well,
I had a pleasure.
anyway,
This was a
thanks
pleasure
for being
being
with
here.
us.
And
And,
I'm making history here. Your first interview.
Yes, you are. Yes,
right.
you are. And for those watching, those who aren't of the Christian faith and just like to hang out with us, this is what heaven's going to be like, folks. We're going to be hanging out with everybody. Not this stuff you're seeing in the news and the social media and people fighting and colors and races and economic stuff that's breaking everybody up. You know, we'll be just sitting, hanging out,
Absolutely.
loving on each other, and a little bit of heaven here today,
That's
bro.
right. That's right.
So-
That's right.
Anyway, thank you for watching Answers from Mars Hill. All the information will be at the end of the show and the credits. I want to thank my good friends, Richie Righteous.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to have you back again.
Absolutely.
We'll arrange
Anytime.
it. And see if I can get you at our church, and we'll see how
Anytime.
bikers like some hip hop.
Let's do it.
Anyway, God bless you all, and we'll see you next week on Answers from Mars Hill.